Welcome to the Book Reading and Summaries channel.
Jane Eyre by Charlotte Brontë. Jane Eyre, Charlotte Bronté's enduring masterpiece, traces the emotional and moral development of its protagonist from her troubled childhood to her ultimate discovery of identity, autonomy, and love. The novel is structured as a journey of growth, a Bildungsroman, in which Jane must confront cruelty, loneliness, temptation, and moral dilemmas to secure a life in which she can live sincerely and equally. The following detailed summary, approximately 5,000 words, unfolds the story chronologically with attention to its emotional, thematic, and symbolic dimensions. Childhood at Gateshead, isolation, cruelty, and inner strength. Jane Eyre begins her story as a 10-year-old orphan living with her aunt by marriage, Mrs. Sarah Reed, at Gateshead Hall. Jane's parents died of typhus when she was an infant, and her mother's brother, Jane's uncle Reed, took her in. His deathbed wish was that Jane be treated as one of the Reed children, but after his passing, that promise is disregarded. Mrs. Reed and her spoiled children, John, Eliza, and Georgiana, view Jane as an unwelcome burden. Jane is excluded from the children's play, denied affection, and constantly reminded of her dependent status. Her cousin John, a cruel and domineering boy, physically bullies her. When she finally resists, Mrs. Reed orders her locked in the terrifying Red Room, the chamber where Mr. Reed died. The psychological trauma of the Red Room, its oppressive silence, coldness, and ghostly associations, marks Jane's first confrontation with fear and injustice. After falling ill following her imprisonment in the Red Room, Jane is visited by the apothecary Mr. Lloyd, who listens to her grievances with rare kindness. He suggests to Mrs. Reed that Jane be sent to school. Mrs. Reed seizes the opportunity and arranges for Jane to attend Lowood Institution, a charity school for orphan girls. Before Jane departs, she attempts to make peace with Mrs. Reed, but the effort fails. Jane's honesty, spirit, and refusal to accept unjust treatment offend Mrs. Reed, who responds with cold hostility. Jane leaves Gateshead with a sense of liberation and determination. 2. Lowood Institution. Hardship, friendship, faith, and moral formation. Lowood, situated in a remote valley, is supervised by the stern clergyman Mr. Brocklehurst, whose doctrine emphasizes austerity and self-denial. He uses religion as a tool for repression and control, insisting that girls must be humble and plain. Unfortunately, Brocklehurst's teachings are hypocritical. His own family lives in luxurious comfort while the school suffers from inadequate food, insufficient heat, and harsh discipline. Despite these hardships, Lowood becomes a place of profound development for Jane. She forms deep bonds with the gentle and intellectual Helen Burns and the compassionate superintendent Miss Temple. Helen Burns serves as a moral anchor. Patient, introspective, and devout, Helen teaches Jane that cruelty can be borne with dignity and that vengefulness destroys the spirit. Helen's philosophy of Christian tolerance and forgiveness balances Jane's instinct for passionate self-defense. Their friendship is transformative, offering Jane a model of resilience rooted in inner peace rather than rebellion. Miss Temple, refined and morally upright, provides a nurturing presence. She encourages academic excellence and emotional stability, offering Jane the motherly care she has never known. One of the most humiliating moments in Jane's childhood occurs when Mr. Brocklehurst publicly shames her, labeling her a liar in front of the entire school. Miss Temple, however, later vindicates Jane, restoring her reputation and reinforcing Jane's trust in justice and truth. A devastating typhus outbreak sweeps through Lowood due to neglect and poor conditions. Many students become seriously ill, and Helen Burns succumbs to consumption, tuberculosis. Jane spends Helen's final moments with her, witnessing her serene acceptance of death. This loss solidifies Jane's understanding of mortality, faith, and moral endurance. The scandal caused by the epidemic eventually exposes Brocklehurst's mismanagement, prompting reforms that improve conditions at Lowood. Jane remains at the school for 8 years, 6 as a student, 2 as a teacher. After Miss Temple marries and leaves, Jane feels restless and eager for new independence. She advertises for a governess position and soon receives a reply from Mrs. Fairfax of Thornfield Hall. Jane departs Lowood, ready for a new chapter. 3. Thornfield Hall. Mystery, independence, and the awakening of love. Thornfield Hall, a grand but somewhat gloomy manor in northern England, becomes Jane's new home. She is employed as governess to Adele Varens, a lively French girl left in the care of the enigmatic master, Mr. Edward Fairfax Rochester. Mrs. Fairfax, the housekeeper, is kind and welcoming, though distant from the deeper secrets of the estate. For a time, life at Thornfield is peaceful, even pleasant. Jane enjoys teaching Adele and taking solitary walks on the surrounding grounds. Her first meeting with Rochester is abrupt and memorable. While walking on the moors, she encounters an unfamiliar horseman whose horse slips on ice, causing him to fall. Jane helps him, unaware that this brusque, dark, commanding man is her employer. Rochester's personality is unlike anyone Jane has known. Blunt, sardonic, intelligent, moody, and magnetic. Despite the differences in their ages and social status, they develop an intellectual rapport. Their conversations are intense and psychologically charged, filled with subtle emotional undercurrents. Yet Thornfield harbors mysteries. Strange, eerie laughter echoes through the halls at night. There are occasional incidents, Jane's room catching fire, a violent attack on a guest, that defy rational explanation. Mrs. Fairfax attributes these disturbances to Grace Poole, a servant with a drinking problem, but Jane senses something deeper. Jane's feelings for Rochester grow, but she believes he is courting the beautiful and aristocratic Blanche Ingram. Blanche is elegant and accomplished, but shallow and disdainful. Rochester appears to encourage Blanche's attentions while teasing and confusing Jane emotionally. For the turning point, love confessed and happiness near. A dramatic moment arises when Jane receives word that Mrs. Reed is dying. Jane returns to Gateshead, where she learns of Mrs. Reed's long-held resentment and discovers a buried secret. Jane's uncle John Eyre had attempted to contact her years before, wishing to adopt her. Mrs. Reed, still bitter, had concealed the letter. Before dying, she confesses, but the emotional damage remains. Jane forgives her aunt, honoring Helen Burns's influence, and returns to Thornfield stronger in her moral convictions. Rochester's behavior toward Jane grows more intense. At last, in the garden, he confesses his love and reveals that Blanche Ingram meant nothing. He had pretended interest only to provoke Jane's true feelings. Overwhelmed, Jane accepts his proposal of marriage. Their happiness, however, is shadowed by Thornfield's atmosphere and the unsettling laughter Jane continues to hear. Storm clouds gather both literally and figuratively. A chestnut tree splits in two on the night of their engagement, a symbolic omen. The interrupted wedding, the madwoman in the attic. On the day of the wedding, Jane stands at the altar beside Rochester. Just as the ceremony is about to conclude, two strangers, Mr. Briggs and Mr. Mason, interrupt with shocking information. They reveal that Rochester is already married. Rochester is forced to confess. His wife, Bertha Mason, is alive, insane, and confined in Thornfield's attic under the care of Grace Poole. Bertha's madness, violence, and uncontrollable behavior have plagued Rochester for years. His marriage, arranged in Jamaica by his father, was a bitter mistake, concealed from him until after the vows. He traveled the world seeking solace and trying to forget the nightmare of his domestic life, but burdened by duty and guilt, he could not legally free himself. Rochester begs Jane to stay, offering to live with her as companions in France. Deeply in love but morally resolute, Jane refuses. Her conscience, the voice shaped by Helen Burns and Miss Temple, reminds her that she cannot sacrifice her integrity for passion. In one of the most painful and heroic moments of the novel, Jane flees Thornfield at dawn, penniless and heartbroken. 6. Wandering, near death, and the kindness of strangers. Jane's escape leads her into a bleak period of wandering across the moors. She suffers hunger, exhaustion, and despair. Rejected by strangers and denied shelter, she reaches the brink of death before being rescued by St. John Rivers and his sisters, Diana and Mary. The Rivers siblings, educated and compassionate, nurse Jane back to health. She adopts the pseudonym Jane Elliot, unwilling to burden them with the scandal of her past. Jane grows close to Diana and Mary, finding warmth, companionship, and intellectual camaraderie. St. John, pronounced St. Jean, is a rigid, ascetic clergyman with a stern sense of duty. He finds Jane useful and respects her intelligence, but his personality is cold and controlled. He secures her a position as a village schoolteacher, providing her with a modest but independent life. Jane enjoys teaching the children and appreciates the simplicity of her new circumstances, though she feels something missing, an absence of emotional fulfillment. Unexpectedly, a lawyer visits the Rivers household and reveals astonishing news. Jane has inherited £20,000 from her uncle John Eyre. Even more incredible is the revelation that the Rivers siblings are in fact her cousins, children of her father's sister. Overjoyed by the discovery of true family and determined to share her good fortune, Jane insists on dividing the inheritance equally among the 4 cousins. Her life seems to settle into a stable pattern, until St. John proposes marriage. 7. St. John's proposal, duty versus desire. St. John's marriage proposal is not motivated by love but by missionary ambition. He wants Jane to join him on a mission to India as a wife-aide, believing she possesses the moral fortitude necessary for such a demanding life. Jane admires his noble intentions but knows she does not love him and cannot marry without affection. St. John, however, is relentless. His icy pressure nearly breaks Jane's resolve, and in her turmoil, she experiences a powerful supernatural moment. She hears Rochester's voice calling her name across the moors. Recognizing the voice of her heart and destiny, Jane refuses St. John and decides she must return to Thornfield, no matter what awaits. 8. Return to Thornfield, tragedy, devastation, and hope. Jane travels back to Thornfield only to discover the estate in ruins. A fire, set by Bertha Mason during one of her violent episodes, has consumed the entire house. Rochester saved his servants but lost his sight and a hand while trying unsuccessfully to rescue Bertha. She perished by leaping from the roof. Heartbroken and filled with guilt, Rochester now lives in seclusion at Ferndean Manor, a remote estate. Jane goes to him immediately. Their reunion is tender and emotional. Rochester, humbled by tragedy, fears Jane will not want him. Jane assures him of her love, loyalty, and choice. Free from legal and moral barriers, they marry. Gradually, Rochester's health improves. He regains partial sight in one eye, enough to see their firstborn son. 9. Conclusion. Fulfillment, equality, and emotional maturity. Jane concludes her narrative as a fulfilled woman, emotionally, morally, and spiritually complete. Her life with Rochester is one of balance and mutual respect. She has found love without sacrificing self-respect, and Rochester has learned humility and dependence without losing dignity. Jane's final reflections express gratitude, peace, and a sense of divine justice fulfilled, not through punishment but through growth, forgiveness, and love. Sparkle's thematic highlights weaved into the summary. Independence versus love. Jane refuses to be Rochester's mistress or St. John's tool, choosing love that respects her autonomy. Moral growth. Guided by Helen Burns's philosophy, Jane learns to balance passion with principle. Gothic atmosphere. Thornfield's mysteries symbolize the hidden psychological and moral dangers in society. Social class and gender. Jane challenges Victorian norms, asserting her equality and humanity. Redemption through suffering. Rochester and Jane both undergo trials that lead to self-awareness and spiritual renewal.
Subscribe to the channel to motivate us to create more useful videos.